Hello Reborners, my name is Karen and this is Making Reborn Dolls with Karen. We're back. Today we have little Ashley on the table. She's a little preemie. She's about 17 inches long when she's finished. She's a Reborn from Bountiful Baby and she has been washed and sealed and she is ready to get started on. So we're going to start with her enhancements. She has a nice little frown on her face up here that we can enhance with either paint or pencils, whichever way we want to do it. I like to enhance the face with paint, and then I do the creases and stuff with pencil. The only thing that I do besides that with pencil is veins and capillaries, if I give them any capillaries. She's very little. She could get some capillaries, and the littler the baby, I think the more you're going to see capillaries on them. Here's her little cute limb. She's got a straight leg that's so cute. And then the other one's bent. And both of her hands have little balled up fists. She's a very cute little baby. We're going to start with her face. I like the face. I really like doing the face. There's a lot of potential in doing a face. You can do a lot of different things. And one of the things I always do, and I laid out my pencil for crease, and we're going to crease in this video too. One thing I always do is put a little blue over their forehead, unless they're just a big baby. The littler the baby, the more blue you're going to see on it, I think. Anyway, I've dipped my blue brushes, so hopefully there's going to be enough blue in them to do this. I'm going to get a sponge to sponge it around with, because we want to spread it, so to speak. We don't want just a stark blue stripe across her forehead. We want it to look more like it's feathered out and natural looking. So anyway, here we go. I'm just going to paint it straight across like this, and I'm not getting anything hardly at all. It is coming out bluish, but it's just not dark. It's not as dark as I was hoping for. Maybe you can see it right now because I haven't feathered it out or anything, but it's very light. Let's put it that way. I'm going to dab it around a bit. I want it darker than that because what I've been putting on my dolls hasn't been showing that well. My nose is itching today. And so I want it a little bit darker, so maybe at the end I can still see it a little bit. I used to could see it a little more than I do right now. On my current dolls I'm talking about. I don't mean right now, but you know. On the last few dolls I did, at the end you don't even see the blue at all. It barely shows. We may come back to that, and we may put some more wet on there because obviously the dry is a little too dry maybe. That's one thing about using dry paint. If you're using a brush that's too dry, it's almost like you don't have anything on it to begin with. But before I put any more on there, I want to make sure that's dry. So I'm going to lay this aside for a minute. We're going to come back to her face, but I want to give that blue a minute to sort of, you know, just set or something. So I'm just going to lay it over here, and we're going to move to creasing. We're going to crease for a little while, and then we'll come back to her face. I want to give the face plenty time. I don't want to take off anything I've already put on there. I'm going to sharpen my pencil just a bit because it's a little too dull for me. I always use the big side because it doesn't shave off so much of your pencil. It actually will just usually sharpen the point, unless the point's completely broken off, and then you might have to use the smaller side. There we go, sharp point. Okay, you don't want it too sharp. That's almost too sharp, because you don't want just something that looks like a very skinny pencil line on your doll. You really want it to look like a crease. But for getting in between these fingers, really sharp is really good. I'm going to do that part first because we want it to be down in the crease and not on the sides of the fingers. I'm using the color Henna. It's a reddish brown color, and that's the color I like my creases to be. I don't know if you can tell this one right here is creased and the other two are not. I don't know. It's hard to see on camera. It's very light crease, and I don't do dark creases usually because, well, they look fake. And Don't forget to come around to the other side though and bring it all the way down. You don't want only this first part that you see on the back of the hand to be creased and the front part of the hand not to be creased. See, that's getting on the side of the finger right there. And I don't want that. I'm going to get something and wipe it off. If you wipe it straight off, it usually comes off. But if you give it any time to set, it's going to be there. Pencil is very quick, in my opinion. Pencil is very quick to set. It's not permanent, really, I don't think. They say 24 hours it will become permanent, but I'm not so sure, because I had this incident one time. 99% of the time in the past when I've made a doll, I have always sealed the penciled hair after I baked it. Well, this one time, it's really hard to tell if you sealed after, if you sealed before, because it already feels rough, and so you can't really remember if you sealed after. I mean, I can't, but I had this doll, and I was going to, I don't remember which doll it was now. I think it was Gabriel. I'm not sure. But anyway, I had this doll, and it had penciled hair, and I wanted to give it rooted hair. And what I had been doing with my dolls was, I knew already that alcohol was not going to take the hair off. I knew that. But I thought maybe, just maybe, it could minimize the dark color of it. Because some of the dolls had hair penciled really close to their forehead, like up to here. And you don't want to root right there because it just would be stupid looking. And so in order to cover up the hair, you'd have to root way close to the face. So I thought, well, you know, if I could just minimize it a little, where it doesn't show as much, maybe it'll look a little better. So I got out my alcohol, and I'd done it to several dolls already, no problem. And what happened was it did slightly minimize the darkness of the hair, just slightly. But it was still plenty there. It wasn't gone by any means, because alcohol just does not take it off. Once it's sealed and all that, it's not coming off. So anyway, I got this doll out, and I proceeded to start to put alcohol on the head. And what happened was, the hair came off, and so did some of the paint. And I could not figure out why, because it's never happened to a doll before that, and I've never had it happen to a doll after that. But I ended up having to strip that whole doll because, well, it just looked funny. The whole head just didn't have any. Everywhere I had wiped, it wasn't the whole head, but everywhere I had wiped before I noticed that it was taking paint off it, and the hair, you know, you just take a big swipe across the head, and then there's like nothing there. It's messed up so bad you have to just go on and finish removing it. And so I did. I stripped the doll, and I decided to repaint the entire doll. But what was my point of this whole story? It's about penciling, I guess. Pencil, they say it's permanent in 24 hours. But you see, that was not permanent. Maybe they just mean it won't rub off. Maybe they're not talking about the fact that you can actually remove it with some kind of solvent. But usually you have to use acetone on a heat set doll. And I'm pretty sure I baked that hair on. I mean, that was my general thing I did, was bake it. Bake the pencil on, you know. And then I'd seal it over the top. But it seemed like to me there was sealer that was coming off as well, because it went down to the vinyl. I'm using this to smudge some of the creases, because they're superficial creases, and they look too sharp because the pencil's too pointy. So I'm trying to blur the line a little bit to make it look a little less sharp. But anyway, that's a creased hand. Up next to a not crease tan. I don't know if you can tell any difference at all on camera, but it's creased. And now I'm going to do this one. Well, let's go back to her face. It's probably dry by now. Yeah, it feels completely dry. If you look at it and it doesn't look shiny or sparkly or anything like that, and you can touch it and it feels powdery dry like it did before you started, then it's ready to put something else on. So I'm not satisfied with the level of blue that I'm getting. I'm going to try some liquid blue. I have a little jar of it. I just don't hardly ever use it because I'm always dipping my brushes and trying to keep them fresh. But here lately, I have done a lot of dolls, and I don't remember if I dipped my brushes after the last round of dolls. So, I don't know. Maybe it's just not been dipped. But anyway, I'm going to dip it, and I'm going to wipe off as much of it as I can. We do not want this to run. If this runs, it's going to be bad because everywhere it goes, it's going to stain the doll. Veining, and this is vein blue. I'm not veining with it, but it's almost like a stain. It stains the vinyl, but with a coat of sealer on it, it's going to stain the sealer too. So I mean, this doll's covered in sealer, and we don't want any of this to run to a spot we don't want it on. That's what I'm trying to say. So anyway, I'm just going to paint a little on her forehead here. Now, I know you can see that. Everybody can see that. Now I'm going to sponge it around with this sponge and try to make it the right color. That's getting close right there to the color that I want on her forehead. Look at that. Maybe you can see it still. It's a little bit wet looking, and there's a slight bluish hue to it. That's closer to what I want. Yes, very nice. Okay. I'm going to let that sit for a minute also, and I'm going to work on her second arm. And then when we come back, I'm going to come back to her head. I'm going to be ready to put some purple on her face, probably. Okay, let's see. All this stuff takes time, and you don't want to hurry with your doll. You want to, I mean, you don't have to go super, super slow. There's no points for going slow, but you don't want to, you also don't want to rush through it and just do it as fast as you can, because you make mistakes then. And they're likely to be mistakes that you can't just easily correct. So just take your time and try to make every step look as good as you can make it look. That's the joy of making reborns, is you go at your own pace. You do it slow, it's relaxed and easy. You don't have to hurry or worry. We're not fussing over our doll. I can't stand that. That makes it seem like work instead of fun. To me, this is my hobby, and it's supposed to be fun. And I like doing it, I do. But I like making these little creations, but I don't like worrying over it. Like, oh, what do I do next? What's wrong with it now? You know, I'm not, and worrying over mixing colors and worrying over if it's going to look good at the end and all that stuff. And I have to say, I put in my days where I did do that because I was brand new. And you're going to have a little bit of worry. You can't help it when you're new because you just are unsure. And but as you go along, and especially if you're following somebody, and you're seeing them do it, and you're seeing how it comes out for them, it gives you a little more confidence that you can do that same thing, and it's going to come out good for you. Maybe you agree with that statement. I don't know. But I don't want to be that person that has to sit there and constantly be second-guessing myself. So that's why I don't like mixing paint. And when I say mixing paint, I don't mean making up jars to use. I'm talking about mixing colors. I use pre-mixed colors because it's easier. It's more relaxed. It's more straightforward. Every time I mix that blue, it's going to make that color blue. I don't have to try to come up with a color that's going to be that color blue. Whether you make it a little darker or a little lighter, that's up to you, but the color is going to be the same color. You're not going to go, now how did I get that color the last time? Because I need that color again. I don't want to go there. It's too much for me. And we're all going to do what we want to anyway. It's not like we have to follow any rules. We don't have to follow somebody else's guidelines or somebody else's rules. We're going to do what we want to do, and this is what I want to do. I want it easy. Unless you think there's something wrong with the vein blue, I don't understand why anybody would want to mix it, that color anyway. It seems like it would be a difficult color to come up with. It's sort of a tealish color. I think I understand that it has a little bit of yellow in it. I'm not real sure. To make it kind of not just sea blue or something, you know. Okay, one thing I forgot to do to that arm. I think I have a hair in my mouth. One thing I forgot to do to that arm was do the fingers. I'm going to do the fingers on this one, then I'll go back to that one. I like to do these little dashes on the finger. They're the wrinkles that make up the joint. I think I have a hair in my mouth. I don't know. I don't know how it got in there, but it seems to be in there. When you're rooting hair, hairs just get everywhere. I think I got it. Oh, they're everywhere. They're touching everything. Oh, and even when you think they're gone, you'll find more. One good thing about balled up fists is you don't have to do this to the inside of the fingers too. Put those little wrinkles that are on your knuckles on the fingers. They look so cute. You don't even have to do all of them. Just if you do 2 or 3 of them, it gives the illusion that you did them all, so to speak. As long as there's some. There we go. That's the arms done. It doesn't take that long to... Oh, I didn't put any purple by her eyes. I mean, blue. I wonder if I can get any blue off of one of these to put by her eyes. We're back to the head again. I'm going to put some blue in the corners of her eyes right here. That's another place, excuse me. That's another place that little babies have a little bit of blue on them. The littler the baby, the more blue they're going to have on them. So keep that in mind. Oh, this one has a lot of blue on it. I don't know why that one doesn't hold any blue. It might be too much blue by her eyes. I'm not sure. We don't want her to look dead or beat up. Black and blue from being beaten or something. That's pretty good. I don't like a lot of blue on my dolls. I just get enough on there to do the job that I'm trying to do, and that's it. I need a fluffier brush for my blue. That brush is not going to cut it. Okay, now I'm going to do a little purple because she's got all these nice little wrinkles that look really good if you do them in purple. Her frown above her eyebrow ridge there. And she's got a little bit of frown between her eyes, right above her nose. And they look really shadowy and good in purple. See, I just painted it on. Almost looks like I gave her purple eyebrows, but that's a little high for her eyebrows. That's above her brow ridge. She's frowning, so her brow ridge is a little bit low. And now I'm going to just do these little marks up here above her nose. Every step we do, we have to kind of let it sort of mesh a little bit before we put the next color on, or we're going to have a mess, a color combination you don't want or something. I think she looks highlighted. I don't know if you can see it. There's something on the screen. I don't think y'all can see that, but it's on the screen. There we go. I can see her better now. But I highlighted her in purple. All you should see is a little shadowy effect. You shouldn't even be able to see the color really at all. It looks a little shadowy. That's all that we were after. Now I can still do a little bit to her face, but while all this is drying, I won't do any right where I put the purple. But I'm going to be making parts of her red. I'm going to be using blush, and I don't know how many brushes I'm going to need, but it's usually a bunch. I'm going to make the tip of her nose a little bit redder than normal. We want it to be a little redder than the rest of her face. Sometimes this red does not show well, so we have to do it a couple times in between, you know, in baking in between. And sometimes it shows really well. I don't know. It's just usually the amount that's in your brush and how many times you've dipped it. And there's a lot of factors. How much you've used it already. Now it's just barely pink. I know you can see that. Now I'm going to make her ears a little bit pinker as well. This is kind of delicate because her ears are small, and we want to cover the entire ear without getting any on her head, if we can do that. If you get a little on there, it's not going to make that much difference because you're going to red her up anyway, kind of, and by the time all the layers go on, it just looks like she's sort of blushy. But we do want her ears distinctly darker than the rest of her. Not super dark, but, you know, we want to be able to tell that they're darker. Even if it's only pinky darker, you know. Every layer you put on is going to darken the ears up even more, but we want that little pink to show. Little baby pink ears, they're so cute. We gotta remember to get the backs of the ears and try not to get it on her head. Like I said, if you get a little on the head, don't freak out or nothing. It's not gonna be the end of the world. Sometimes you can rub it off with a swab, or a lot of times you rub it off the ear at the same time and you end up having to go back and do the ear again. So a lot of times I just don't take it off. If it's not bad, I just leave it. Because it's wipe on, wipe off. I feel like the Karate Kid. Okay. We're just going to dab that a little bit. If you don't dab it just a little, even if you're dabbing it only very slightly, if you don't do that, it usually ends up with some little granule looking stuff in it. I don't know, it's weird. But anyway, there's her ears done. So now we're going to do a little bit on her lips. I'm getting a runny nose. Okay, I'm going to just brush a little onto her lips because it gives a little bit of a foundation of color that we're almost immediately going to paint over with As soon as it's had a little bit of time to dry, we're going to paint over it with the thicker color. I don't know if I can get this on there with this many bristles on the brush without getting it all over her face. Just have to be very, very careful doing this. I want to give her little lips a little bit of boost there. Now I see some little places on her chin down here, like right up in here on these sides, that are sort of part of her facial expression. I'm going to put a little purple there. We want to enhance her little face expression because it's cute. She's got a bit of a frown and a bit of a, I don't know, grouchy look, I guess. And making that show a little bit is usually kind of cute. That's not very dark. I don't think it's going to show. Sometimes you have to bake them and then come back and do a little bit more. Okay, we're going to give her head just a minute to sort of dry out a little bit while we work on her arms and legs. We're not going to be able to do any painting other than the nails on the arms and legs on this round because we did the creases. And if we do the baking as well, I mean, if we do the painting as well, it's just going to take the creases off. And we don't want that. We worked on these creases and we want to keep them the best that we can. I'm just doing very light creases because I don't want them to look dirty. Sometimes the darker the creases, the more dirty they look. That's one reason I switched to this color. Purple and red and all them other colors that I was trying to use on creases just was too dark, I thought. And when you put the paint over it, it gets a little bit darker. And they just look too much like pencil lines. That's why I'm rubbing them, to sort of smear them a little bit. My pencil's a little too sharp. But if they're too dark, the pencil lines become dirty looking creases. It looks like your baby crawled around in the mud or something. I don't know. But it's not attractive. And so I go with lighter colors. That's why I go with lighter colors. And if some of them wash out, well, okay. Well, they're not all going to stay anyway, so. And maybe you don't even want them all, so. Maybe later you're going to go, yeah, that one looks weird, you know. Well, a lot of them are going to not show anyway because I'm doing them so light. This is one of those times when, well, if you want it darker, you might have to go over it again. But I'm not going to make them darker right at the beginning because every coat of paint darkens them. And I have actually waited till later in the painting process, but you almost have to, well, I'm going to be doing almost a bake just for the, I was going to say you'll have to do a bake for just your creases, but I'm almost going to be doing that anyway. The only other thing I'm going to do is nails. So nails and lips have to be built up. So you want to start early in the process with those, because just putting on thick coats of paint on their lips and nails is not going to give you your best look. Yeah, blur those lines a little. They look a lot better rubbed. If you rub too hard, you'll rub them off. But I like the bottom creased. I like to be able to see it. Now this leg's going to be interesting. She's got all these wrinkles on the front of her leg that you can crease. I mean, you don't have to. A lot of people don't do it, but I think it's cute. And if it shows at the end, it's really cute. Sometimes if we rub too much, we rub the crease right off. I think I rubbed one of them off, but that's okay. It was a very superficial one anyway. Just want to smear those lines so they don't look so much like a pencil line. Ashley's a cute little preemie. I've been thinking about pairing her up with Leaf. Instead of Aspen and Leaf, make Ashley and Leaf. Aspen and Leaf were real life twins. I don't know if they were preemie babies, but little Leaf had a heart defect or something, and he died about a month after he was photographed. I don't know if it was undiagnosed or what, or maybe it just became evident at some point. I don't know, but it's sad. But they went on and made him into a doll because his mother wanted him to be made into a doll. They gave her the choice to not have him made into a doll or to go forward with it, and she wanted to go forward with it because she didn't want him to be forgotten. She wanted people, if people were making little Leaf babies, then there would be images of him all over the place, and people would love him and will love his doll anyway. They didn't know him, and it would be comforting to her to know that people enjoyed reborning him and stuff. And I don't know how I would feel. It's just a very tragic thing. He was a very, very sweet little cute baby too. Not that ugly babies should die or anything, but it seems more tragic or something when they're super adorable. I don't know, it just does. And I think he was one of the Pratt's grandchildren too. They usually tell in the listing if they're related some kind of way. They do take just anybody's, you can apply to have your baby photographed. I don't know what you have to do, send pictures of them or something. But they look for babies that have distinctive features. And real photogenic looking that'll make an interesting doll. Because I guess they have plenty of other dolls that are just, just ordinary looking babies. I don't know. I didn't think they did that. I thought all the babies that they did were related to them. But then I saw something on their site one time that said that you could apply. Of course, they want to photograph the baby as young as possible. So I don't know if you have to pay your own way to Salt Lake City to get them photographed, or I don't know what the procedure is. I don't know if you get paid for it. I don't know. But it's a process. I think you have to enter a photograph or something, or send a video or something, and then you have to make that trip. Okay, that's all of the creases. Now we're going to go back to her head a little bit. My eyes are running too. And we're going to blush her. We're going to blush her cheeks and her forehead and her chin and around up in here. We're just going to blush her. And I'm going to start with this brush, even though I've already been using it. I'm going to put a little more on her nose. It doesn't look quite dark enough to me. There we go. Just a tad. I'm not even gonna dab it. Okay, here we go. Let's start putting color on her cheeks. This may take 2 to 3 times doing it to get it the color that we want. We have to get it to a certain darkness. We'll put a little on her eyes. You don't want some part of the baby looking very, very starkly white. So if you don't put a little on the eyes, that's what you're going to get. A real blushed up, dark looking face. And then the eye part, even though it's painted with 3 different colors, is going to look starkly different, so much that it almost still looks like bare vinyl. So we're going to get this on her cheeks, kind of dark. Get a little on her chin, down here. A little above her lip, a little on her lips, a little below her lips. Just a little. Okay, I need another brush. They're behind my tablet. That's why you see me reaching over to the tablet like that. I have my tablet propped up on the table on top of, leaning against my jars with my brushes in them. Okay, we've got it that dark. And it looks very, very dark, but it's really not all that dark. I'm going to get my kabuki, and I'm going to kabuki it around a little bit, and it's going to get much lighter. And on top of that, it's going to feather it out a little and soften it so it just doesn't look like a big stark red mark on your doll. It's going to look a little more natural, let's put it that way. A little more feathered and a little more, instead of like that. Spreads it out, it evens it, it tones a little bit of the harsh, brassy looking red down. You know, it's just very, very stark. Tones it down a little bit. Now, after she bakes, we may need to put more on her because this is very light. You're going, huh, looks dark to me. But everything gets lighter when you bake. Everything. So it's going to be lighter. Now I'm going to put a little on her forehead up here. I just put it over onto one side. I don't give it to her all over her forehead because we don't want to really make her that red. But she gets a little blush on her forehead, a little bit. I just give it to one side though. It's almost like she has a streak of blush. Okay. Now she looks like that. This is a good start. I'm going to find my pencil. I think this is it right here. No, that's not it. That's light umber. I don't want that one. Is this it? Yes, sandbar brown. That's the color I use. I'm going to give her some eyebrows. Because if I don't, I usually forget. Now, her brow ridge is a little bit low because she's frowning. And, you know, you can make it lower or higher. But she's frowning, so it's a little bit lower. So it's good. It might look a little funny, but that's where they belong. Is right on this brow ridge. And if you follow the brow ridge, it's a lot easier to make matching. Not that they're going to look exactly the same, because they're not, because we just can't be perfect. But it's going to be a little bit closer to right. I just do wispy little, I don't try to draw those individual little hairs. They just become bushy like mine, and babies don't need bushy eyebrows like that. We're not making a hairy baby, we're making a pretty baby. I know some babies are very hairy when they're born. Okay, we're going to put that aside for a minute and let it rest. And while that's happening, I'm going to paint her nails. I'm going to be using this, which is, I know a lot of y'all already know what it is. It's thinning medium. Just a jar of thinning medium. I took out enough that I could put paint in it because it's almost completely to the top when you get it. So, and you can't mix it. It just starts spilling out. So I took out a little bit of it because I put thinning medium in my paint anyway. And so I just took some out and used it. And then it left me enough room to put my paint color in there. And I just colored it up till I thought it was right. I used the lip nail blush, and I want it thicker anyway because it paints on a lot smoother and a lot easier, and you don't have to put as many coats. You'd probably have to put 10 to 15 coats of just watery stuff. But I use this, and I put it on extremely thin on the first coat. Each coat after this one can be slightly thicker, but you want to go with very thin at the beginning. And the reason for that is there's no paint on her nails. Yes, she does have sealer, and sealer does help the paint to stick, but it also sticks very much better if it's already painted. And if it's not already painted, you put it on thick, you run the risk of it running down to the base of the nail. and looking like you just outlined the nails. So I put it on so thin, after she bakes, you might not even see it. And that's okay, because it's there. And if you can't even see it, it's okay. I theorized that you could actually just use some thinning medium for this first step, because this is just thinning medium with color in it. But I want every coat to have color, because it's building up my color, and I won't have to go at the end and just try to do the nails all by themselves. I don't want to do that. A lot of people do that, and it's perfectly fine if that's what you want to do, but I don't want to do that. When I get finished painting her, I want her nails to also be finished. I don't want to go, well, now I'm going to do nails. Some people do that, though. I've seen it in the baby group over and over. They'll go, oh, I still have nails and lips to do, and I still have, different things that I do all along. Some people almost paint the entire head, and then they go, well, I still have to do the hands and feet. Really? Okay. I do them as I go along. I barely touch the brush to the paint. And I have to come out of the sweatshirt because I am burning up. So give me 1 second. I was freezing cold when I first got up, and now I'm burning up. Oh. That is much better. I also have to have a drink of my water. I'm always so thirsty. Okay, we're on this one. I woke up this morning extremely sick to my stomach. My shot makes me sick to my stomach sometimes. But here lately, I haven't been having the nausea, so, it's really acid reflux is what it is. I have acid reflux anyway, to the point where I take 2 different medications. One is omeprazole, and the other one is famotidine. I take one in the morning and one at night. And it controls my acid. But since I've been taking this shot, it makes me have more acid reflux. And it was very, very outrageously bad there for a while. I was taking both of them morning and night. It was so bad. But it had subsided, so what did I do? I put up my famotidine thinking, well, I won't need to take that. So left it out for the longest time, and I wasn't being sick, so I said, I'm going to put it, I have a bag I keep my bottles of medicine in, and I fill up my little pill containers, and when they run out, I fill them up again. And that way I don't have to get each bottle out every single day. And so I put all the bottles that I'm not currently, needing to fill up anything with, or I'm not currently needing to take, in this great big bag, like a tote bag, I guess, that I don't know where it came from, but it's big enough to hold all my medicine. And so I put it up, and I put the bag stays in my closet, so it's out of the way. And what happened? Well, I got acid reflux. So I go, well, okay, whatever. Thank goodness. I hate it when their fingers are covered by part of the hand, but part of the nail still shows. I hate that. If they're going to put the fingers underneath, put them all the way underneath. The thumb, you can't even see the nail, and that's great to me. Oh, but I see partial finger here. I hate partial fingers. They're so hard to paint without getting any paint on their hand. Yep, hard to do. And then there's the ones that are pointed so far down that you have to try to bend the hand back to paint it. like this. Also very hard to paint. I used to never tip the nails, and I've started tipping nails, and I've tipped maybe, I don't know, 10 dolls' nails. It's rather hard when you have shaky hands like I do. So a lot of times I choose not to tip if their nails look really hard to tip, and I think this is probably one I won't tip. I'll never be able to tip that pinky finger. And you can't just tip some of the fingers and not the others. And sometimes I don't tip because I can't get the nail color right. What I do is I paint the nail color every layer except the blush layer, the very last layer I want to put the tip on. So I don't want to be painting the nail and then trying to tip it too, because that just won't work out. So I paint, like when she comes out, if I have to do more enhancements, I'll paint the nails again and the lips. And when I get finished, by the time I get finished with the doll, the nails and the lips are supposed to be the right color. Sometimes the lips are easier to paint if you turn them upside down. But sometimes I just can't get the color right on the nails until the very end. And then I would have to do an extra bake just to do the tips. And so I just don't tip them because I don't want to do that. I don't think they look bad untipped. In fact, mine might look a little better untipped. Like I said, I'm not too good at it because I have such shaky hands. Once again, on the lips, I do the same thing as the nails. Very, very light. And you want to make sure you're following that lip line. When you first start painting, this is another reason to start early. When there's no other paint on the doll, you can see the lip line really well. But the more paint you put on the doll, the harder it is to see. So once you get a coat of paint on there, we're following the paint instead of the lip line. Wherever you painted before, you paint again. And that's why this very first coat is super, super important to be exactly right, because it's your guide for the rest of your layers. Well, if I touch the paint, I might actually get some on there. Trying to just barely touch the paint. I don't want a lot of paint on my brush and have to wipe it off. So I just barely touch the bristles to it. This is going to be so light, it's barely going to show. But we're not, the next layer probably is going to be enhancements again, because she doesn't look dark enough on her blush. And trying to put more blush on her right now is just going to be counterproductive because it's just not going to work. So we're going to have to, okay, now that's a little bit hard to see that lip line. Okay. All right, I'm going to do this side first. I can see it. I don't have the best eyesight either. That's another thing. So it's a little hard to follow a lip line you can't see. But I can see it a little better on this side for some reason. I don't know. And if you're getting too much on there, just swipe your brush on your paper towel here and then go back and pick up some of that. You don't want it real, real thick. It'll run too. It'll run all the way down to where it looks like the top and the bottom lip are touching. And it looks like she has a creased lip. It looks really funny. This is thick paint. It's not that thin paint doesn't run, because it does, but thick paint, when it runs, it wants to stay there. This is worse than trying to paint your nails. We were never allowed as young girls to wear any sort of makeup or nail polish or anything. My parents just would not allow that. They thought it made us look like street girls or something. And My mother grew up in very poor in rural Tennessee, where people just didn't have any money, and makeup was not something that they had. And she was never a made up person anyway. She always was very natural. And she did not want her girls looking cheap. She thought it looked cheap for girls to wear, young girls to wear makeup. And so she would not let us wear it. And matter of fact, she never did let us. Uh, my sister had really bad acne, so when she got about 15, she let her put a little foundation on her face to cover that up because she was so ashamed. But other than that, no, we couldn't. And so we never really got in the habit of doing makeup, so we never really knew how to do it. And when I say this is worse than painting your fingernails, I may have painted my fingernails 3 times in my whole life, and I was no good at it. So, long story short, you don't paint your fingernails for very long if you can't do it right. I also couldn't put on makeup even after I was an adult. I couldn't do it. I didn't know how. Never put it on before. Didn't even want to by the time I was an adult. I got used to not wearing makeup. I spent my whole life not wearing it and didn't see any reason to change. I'm just pulling out this paint that's too much in the crevices. I don't like the creases to look like they're outlined. You have little lines on the lips. I want them to look smooth. I don't know if you can see that, but it's painted. And so is her nails. So we're ready to get her into a bake. And get her baked. And when we come back, we'll probably do a little bit of enhancing. I'm going to paint her feet and her hands, and I don't know what else. We'll just have to wait and see. But we will return as soon as she's baked and cooled and ready to go. I don't cover baking because it's just too hard. You just put it in the oven and bake it. And that's not anything to see. I don't stay out. I put my oven outside, and I don't stay out there and watch it. So, I mean, you wouldn't want to watch it either, I don't think. But anyway, I'm going to remind everybody to please like, subscribe, and share. And happy reborning.